Well, dude, thanks for coming on. You're going to be my second episode, just so you know. I always wanted it to be. That's why I was so like I gave so much pressure to pushing you to be like, bro,
sorry.
I want to do it. I'm doing whatever. And then we did. You helped me out, drove all the way out there, and then the microphones were just hogwash. And so then when I listened back, I'm like, it's less vital to me if it always has the best camera, but if the audio is bad, then I'm kind of like, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing this. And so it was the most echoey, crazy thing. And no matter what I did to try to isolate the voices, it just ended up making you sound like a Smurf. So I was like, we're done with this. So we had to reshoot. But
it'll be interesting because like when we did it, like we were just jumping into like the holiday break, and I was like, just feeling like super low key and chill. And I told you I took some time off, and so I was like reflective and thoughtful. And this one, I feel like I'm bringing a different energy, which maybe this energy I'm bringing to this one's a little bit more reflective of my typical status quo, and not that like.
Sure.
Laissez-faire. I mean, I'm never laissez-faire, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think also too, it's just good to speak about where you're at, and the facts are is like for a lot of people, the holidays are really stressful, and coming out of it, like you were really relaxed, which is great, but we even talked about it a little bit in that podcast where you were kind of like, I don't really even believe in balance. So right, so it's like, well, here we go. Other side of the teeter-totter, right? If it's like we're here now and then we're back over here, it's like, okay, so we're on the other side of the teeter-totter, which is just as important because I feel like, I mean, that's everybody's life, really. I mean, unless you're wildly privileged, I think for most of us, that's the nature of life is seasons of rest and then seasons of just mind-altering speed. I feel like that's what life's been like for me the last like 2 years, especially. God, but
for me, it's coming up on 10.
Really?
Well, I left Eastlake 10 years ago. This February.
Oh, no shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about that coming into 10 years? Like 10 years. And also like, because what you did, you were a pastor of one of the remote campuses. Is that what did we call it? Multi-sites campuses or whatever?
I don't know. We just call them campuses.
But you were the lead pastor of the Wedgwood location.
The Seattle location.
Oh, sorry. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. God, John, get it right, man. No, I mean, without like getting into like the boring logistics of it. Yes, we ended up having a Seattle campus.
Right. Yes.
And after all was said and done, I ended up being the Seattle campus pastor.
Right.
That's the simplest way to explain it.
Yeah. And then the thing is that after that, it was really like you just basically went through the period, because I think that's also the other important thing to say is walk us through that 10-year period, because you were pastor of the Seattle campus, and then all of a sudden you were like, I got to do this thing, and then that's what you've been up to for 10 years.
Yeah. So 2016. I mean, I don't know how much people are really going to care about the nitty gritty of this, but so
I just think it's an interesting story because one, you almost never meet a pastor. Period.
Not very many of us, and the ones that there are like kind of suck usually.
Yeah. But I'm also really glad that like there's a part of me that still loves it. Like when you said it, you're like, there's not very many of us. Like you're still in that group. I like that you're still.
Yeah, I still wear that hat. I mean, some of that's just wiring. Like even yesterday, I was talking with a mom from I coach Kennedy, our middle kids soccer team, and I was on the phone with a mom who they're going to do a candle class here essentially as an auction item. Anyway, so I was talking with her, but like I know her a little bit, but not super well. And we got on the phone. I could tell like something was like a little off. So I was like, "How you doing?" And then and it kind of unfolded into like she's in another state, helping take care of her aging father. She's a little bit older than us, and so her parents are a little bit older than our parents, and they're kind of entering that season where like something's always wrong. And so we were just kind of talking about that. And she was very like lighthearted and like open about it, but that's the first time we've probably ever really had
a genuine conversation. About the reality of what was going on.
Yeah. And I am really comfortable wearing that hat. I like wearing that hat. Have you seen the new Knives Out?
I have not.
You gotta watch it.
Okay, I'll check it out. I'll try to watch it today.
Yeah, you gotta watch it.
Okay.
It is for anyone who's ever worked for a church or just someone like you or I who is really comfortable moving towards pain and the truth and suffering and all that. I think that we're more comfortable with that than we are with most other things. It's just a really the main protagonist is a priest.
Okay.
And it is this really smart kind of critique of what church has become or can become at its ugliest, and has for forever had that side of the coin, and then what it looks like when you have someone who just genuinely wants to be there for people. And so like there's multiple times where the main character ends up in conversations because people feel safe with him. And it's very clear, Daniel Craig's character is an atheist, but he can't help to respect and feel a certain, I think, affinity or for watching this young priest be true to who he is. He's like, oh, like that. You are wired for this. So anyway, yes, I say us because I think I'll always wear that hat. It's the hat I'm most comfortable wearing in terms of like caring for people. And then it also helps people understand a little bit of who I am quickly, or understand what their version of that is. And then and then in some ways allows me to, by saying it, then I can help people redefine what I think it should be. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And like it comes up all the time where people are like, oh, how'd you end up doing what you do? And I'm like, well, depending on the environment, like depending on whether or not I think it's going to help or hinder our ability to tell our story, I'll be like, oh, I used to be a pastor. This happened yesterday. Happens almost every day. I used to be a pastor, and then I kind of go into my journey of what led me here, and it allows me to see what they think that means. And you can almost, I do it so often, I can read really quickly whether people are like, whether that adds to or detracts from their definition of me.
For sure.
Right? You can see really quickly, they're like, oh, or they're like, ugh. You know, like there's not a whole lot of in between. So it's really interesting. Yeah. And I like both.
Okay.
Because then I can speak to each. So if someone's like, oh, wow, then I can be like, cool, I'm going to help kind of redirect what this person thinks that means versus what I think it means, what a pastor should look like, what it looks like to, if you say you believe in the gospel, blah, blah, what that should look like in action. Or for the person who is like immediately has some level of suspicion or resistance based on their experiences with who a pastor has or is, then I can also help them redefine what it looks like. Oh, yeah, that's what I know. That's what you see it as. Here's what I think it should look like.
Yeah.
And then I've been doing what I do now for so long that I can really prove it. Like you can't, it's really hard for people to be like, so it's really hard for people to be like, well, I still believe a lot of the same things. It's just, this is now how I engage with it, and then critique that system that I used to belong to. And then, there's no substitute for time. And I've been doing the work that I'm doing now for, this February will be 8 years. And it's been a really long journey, and it's been like, I think really organic and beautiful, but also like really deeply challenging. And like, I put in the time. So like at this point, I feel like that speaks for itself a little bit. Does that make sense?
It does. And so, the transition out of being that Seattle campus pastor to then leaving the church, then starting your own thing, which was originally this event-based cathedral. Mm-hmm. And then you also started a church called Bar Church for a while, how long did that run for?
Kind of like 3.5-ish years.
Yeah,
so
for a while.
Yeah. So, what happened with the Eastlake thing was, and I left Eastlake on really good terms. It wasn't like, I'm out of here, this place sucks. I had kind of realized a year before I had left even that while I liked a lot of the things about being a campus pastor, that I didn't feel like it was what I wanted to give my life to. Mm-hmm. There was one point in my life where I thought that was what I was going to do. I thought I was like, I wanted to be a mega church pastor. And I think a lot of my innate skill set.
I think you could have pulled it off.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think it would have been good.
And then I'd be reading you on the front page of the news, having clap cheeks from some random moment. It blew your life up.
Yeah, I think it would have been really unhealthy for me. Honestly, it's unhealthy for everybody.
Yeah, that's actually my argument all the time. Is I actually think it's unhealthy for people.
Yes.
I think that level of adoration and regard that flows, I don't think humans can help it. isn't good for a person.
Yeah. In influence, I think particularly in whenever that role correlates towards things like where people spend their eternity, it feels like an even different dynamic. So, and the reason I kind of make that differentiation is there's a lot of famous people. I think athletes maybe do this ironically maybe better than anybody else. I think there's probably a lot of like athletes that are like good humans.
Okay, I want to hear this argument.
Okay, so let me so bear with me for just a second. And I think maybe I actually don't agree with this, but we'll see how I walk it out.
Let's walk it out, dude. Let's walk it out.
So like politicians, for example, they have to compromise their integrity in order to achieve their positions of power.
Sure.
I think it's really difficult to become a senator or the president of the United States or Supreme Court justice or whatever without having to compromise on your integrity over and over again. I mean, that's the nature of politics, is compromise. And you can make an argument that that's okay, but also like, you know, if the origin of politics is how we take care of our communities and society. That's the nature. That's what politics is by definition. I think like I remember at some point reading the original like Greek determination or the definition of it, and that's what it's supposed to be, right? But in modern day politics, it isn't that, obviously. And so you just have to sacrifice so much of your character in order to achieve the results that, like, there's a reason that very few people trust politicians. CEOs, business leaders, same thing.
Sure.
In order, you know, you have to at a certain point put profit over people. And once you put profit over people, there's really no going back. And so, you know, we get an Elon Musk and a Jeff Bezos and whoever that avatar is for you. We only get those people because at a certain juncture in their business life, they decided that the most important thing was growth for the sake of growth, despite what it does for
the consequences,
right? So like, it'd be hard to argue, I think it'd be hard to argue that Meta, Amazon, you know, whatever mega corporation you want to define is good for the overall global well-being of people. I think you could make that argument, but I think it'd be a tough argument to make. I think overall it's probably not great that we put so much power, influence into our bodies of business. So that's business, that's politics. And then, you know, Hollywood, I would argue, is mostly not a merit-based system, right? It is a connections. There's a lot of nepotism, just like there is in those other areas, right? And then it is also, I would argue, based on looks quite a bit.
Sure.
Not just attractive looks, but, you know, ethnicity. And there's a reason that certain people get the roles that they get over and over again. Other people aren't given those same opportunities. So all these other positions of power, I think, are innately corruptive to character.
Sure.
Whereas I can, and I'm getting ready to make an argument that at least with athletes, it is primarily merit-based.
Sure.
You have to be the best
you have to be able to ball
at whatever you are doing.
Yeah.
And you can become the best athlete in your profession without compromising who you are. It's not easy. It'd be really difficult. But theoretically, you could put guardrails in place that would be like, okay, I'm not going to be corrupted by the system because I'm just the best at what I do physically. So I don't have to.
This isn't an intellectual, a moral, a philosophical position that I'm holding.
Yes.
I'm just out here balling. And so, yeah, there for sure is. Yes. I think you're right that there's definitely more space for it. Whether athletes utilize that level of power and influence in a way that could be the most impactful upon popular culture. I think there's examples where they have, and where sports has done an incredible job of critiquing culture, politics, and power, whether that's at various Olympic Games or in championships or, you know, people taking a knee or, you know, someone wearing certain shirts or even ribbons for cancer awareness or, you know, Me Too movement stuff. You could name it, but sports tends to bear the ages of the issue. And I do think athletes, you know, I do think it's a fair statement to say they can do that. They definitely have some ability to do that. But yeah, the pastor thing, I do think you would have pulled it off. And I think you would have pulled it off. I think it would have either put you in one of two places, which is I think you either would have kind of left it at a certain point
Yes.
and been like, this is corrosive to me.
It.
Or you would have been like, boy, the trappings of this, and you would have just been a human. And you would have been like, wow, there's a lot of fucking perks. And that is really nice. It's
money, influence.
Yes.
And I like the things that
and I think
make a pastor really successful are things that I enjoy. Like, I love communicating from stage. I love communicating to an audience. I love...
There's a performer streak.
I love moving people. And
that's a big one.
Right. I love being able to, like, have a mic and get people to, like, feel a certain
100%.
way. And not in a manipulative way, but I like it when I can invoke those emotions. So I really like leading people. I like developing people. So there's a lot of things that I like about what that role would have been. I just don't think it would have been very good for me. And then fundamentally, I'm just such an idealist, and you are too, that as soon as I realized that if I did that, it would take away from whatever it was that I was supposed to do. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, but it would take away from that, and that my contribution, like, I overthink everything, but like, I love that Apple commercial where Robin Williams is reading that quote from Dead Poet Society about like what your verse will be. Like, I think about what my verse will be like. I think about that all the time. Like, what is my contribution to this universe? And if my contribution was, well, he led a mega church and was arrogant and cocky and didn't really actually like help people. It seemed like he was, but he really wasn't. Then I wouldn't have been okay with that. And so they actually, like, you might remember this, but like when Eastlake was trying to figure out what they were doing, they offered the campus pastors like, hey, do you want to just take this over? Just as your own.
Oh, yeah.
Just as your own thing. And I was like, nah, this is a great season. I want to kind of wash my hands and express gratitude, which I feel like I was able to, and then move on to doing something else.
And then now you're running Cathedral, and then it has inside it, which is an event space. It does all kinds of events, and a co-working space, and has, markets and all kinds of stuff for the community. But then on top of it, you run a candle company out of here, which was founded during the pandemic.
Yep.
And even before that, though, you had started partnering with, young men with, difficult pasts. And then basically from there, I don't know how you would define it. How do you define that?
Yeah.
Because I always want to be...
For the guys I work with?
Yeah, just because I always want to be...
Honestly, now I just say the truth. I work with kids who are justice impacted, or they've had periods of incarceration. I work with kids who are either in jail or were in jail. I mean that's what I do now. Yeah. Yes, we used to like tiptoe around it because we want to be honoring and respectful to our guys.
It's just not a defining. It's like, to me, I think the reason I only wanted to pause there is because I think for me, even knowing the young men that are a part of here, a part of Spire, and just a part of Cathedral and your life, I find it to be one of the least defining factors about them as people.
For sure.
So it's like, it's also one of those things that, like, it's not even so much, I'm like, it's not about not telling the truth. It's just like, it's not really a large defining factor on what is the character, personality, traits, interests, passions, skills, any of the things that you would want to sum up a person. They have all those traits. And so this one actually feels kind of like the least, as attached to their persona and identity. I feel like it's not very important.
For sure. It doesn't define them, but it does define who we are as an organization. So there's like a kind of nuance there. We're like, well, yes, it doesn't define our guys, but it is what we do, right?
Yeah,
and it's not like it's not like kind of what we do. It's who we are.
Sure.
My kind of tagging back to the church thing, my fundamental beliefs are still the same. We are 10 years into this adventure of me kind of like trying to figure out what my verse is, which sounds really like selfish in some ways. And it kind of is. Trying to spend some time on that lately too. But I fundamentally just believe in the innate goodness of people. I think people are good at their core. And I think that if we want to point that out in people, we got to be really intentional. And so, we even use language like people are like, oh, it happens all the time. People use words like, oh, this must be such a transformative experience for your guys. And we always are really quick to point out that we're not in the transformation game. We're in the seeing game. Like, our guys don't need to be transformed. They don't need to be changed. What we exist for in all the things we do is we want to point to the thing that they already are, which is good. And there's a lot of ways that we can do that, but I'm not interested in transforming anybody. Other than not even myself. I'm not interested in transforming myself. I'm interested in continuing to It's like I think our goodness is like a muscle, and the more you work it out, the healthier it grows. And when you don't spend time working out your own goodness, then your muscles atrophy and you get fat. So, I think so all the things we do revolve really around that fundamental belief that I believe that people are good, that they see the problems of the world and they want to help, and they don't always know where to start. And so my interests really lie in not even working with justice impacted young men. That just kind of happened organically. But that is the how I express the seeing part, how I'm like, okay, cool. This is who we work with now. This is what we do. And so
and that's probably always flowed. I mean, I don't know, you tell me, but I would think that that's always flowed from this deeper sense that like you wanted to do something good in the world.
For sure.
You wanted to do something good in the world, and your allies in that are these young men.
Yes.
The business is simply a means to that end.
Yes.
And that really the long and overarching goal, even when I would say if we walk all the way back to you know, becoming a pastor and was always still that goal of like, I was so hoping to impact the people that I had the opportunity to meet in such a way that it would make them and the world better.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this, but I was in this like 6-month really cool cohort with this organization called Red F, where for 6 months we got to do all this like intensive learning and development of the business. Really cool. But one of the practices like your story, and you had to sit down and ask a lot of why questions. And it was really hard for me to like kind of figure out like, why do I care so much? Why? And then you have to like sit in front of 19 of your peers and share it. And I still feel a little bit of embarrassment because I just got up there and I just was like crying. It was ridiculous. And I think what happened was I'm listening. So most of the people in that room were people who have lived experience in one of a few categories, either like houselessness, formerly incarcerated, refugees, first generation immigrants. And so people have had really challenging pathways and they're sharing their stories and they're all like deeply like sad and painful. And then I could just feel myself carrying that with every story. And then
by the time they got to you were saturated, bro. You were a cloud full up.
I just was up there like weeping. I cry, but I don't like
wail.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just felt like I just was downloading, what probably was years of sadness. But I think at the core, I think I'm a real deep feeler. I just really, really care. There's that movie I haven't seen yet, but I care a lot. You seen that movie?
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, I care a lot.
Yeah.
Like I care a lot about people in pain and suffering. And so my like impulse to move towards that is it's not intellectual.
A low key thing. Okay. Yeah.
It's not intellectual.
Yeah.
It's become intellectual.
Yes.
But it's not an intellectual response. It's a emotional response that it feels like, what else would I do other than move towards suffering and pain and helping? It just feels like I like have to do it.
It's funny you're saying that because there's a thing from, John Haidt really well, but John Haidt has this thing where he writes, and I think it's in the book, The Righteous Mind, but it's the idea that like, we often think that what we are is a hyper-rational thing that is actually logicking and reasoning and measuring our way to our moral and ethical positions. But that's actually not really what kind of bears out. What seems to bear out is we feel our way to a particular position, and then we back it, and we backfill with reason, logic, and the intellect.
Yeah.
And so I think even that is sometimes a really important thing to realize that like you do this from so many well-reasoned places, and you could argue it from so many rational places, but that what's, I think in another way a little bit like lovely to know is that like, but long before I had those reasons, I had this feeling, because so many of our thoughts just live with us. Our feelings live with us. And then when you walk out in the world, you're carrying around your own ideas about reality, your own morals and your own ethics. And then to see and find community in that way, it can feel, I think for me, it feels like really humbling and grounding. Like, cool, like this is a real thing. This really does matter beyond just me, beyond just what I'm saying matters, Is that how it felt at all when you were there? Or was it more just like a thing that you were going through internally about your own journey as you heard other people?
In this specific instance, I mostly felt like embarrassment and shame.
But why would you feel embarrassment and shame?
I think a couple things. One, I think like just I think a couple things are happening. One, as is the case oftentimes in my life, I was the only like white guy in the room. So
I love it.
So I'm very often, I mean, most rooms I'm in these days.
But that's not like a thing where you kind of go, I'm doing what almost every one of these groups has always, like, I guess you don't at all align yourself with like the white abolitionists, the white reformers, the people that like literally looked out at the world and were like, I am the one that's in some ways different seats of power, and I'm leveraging that to do something useful for people that often don't look like me and certainly do not have my start. And I'm just using my time and energy instead of amassing wealth and influence and power. I'm laying it down to try to see if I can escort other people into these positions of stability and power.
Yeah. I guess I feel inspired by those people.
Yeah.
I'm just also really cognizant of like not taking up all these spaces because I'm not only that thing, white, straight, 41-year-old dude, which I don't feel bad about that. That's just who I am, right? I don't feel bad about that. But I'm also gregarious, loud, chatty, opinionated. Like I am all those things too. So I'm really cognizant. And the nice thing is, as I'm in these rooms more, I'm getting more and more encouragement to be myself from the people who I should listen to. Mm-hmm. Right. So they're like, hey, you don't got to apologize for who you are all the time. Or, you know, they'll say things like, it's really clear really quickly how self-aware you are. And it doesn't mean I'm still not those things, but I think you just can't fake authenticity, right? And so once people experience me for any length of time, I might not be their cup of tea. Mm-hmm. I might not be for them, but they know I'm for them.
Right.
Does that mean, you know?
Yeah.
What I mean?
I also think too in the world, like we've talked about this before, but like the nature of imperfect allies, and it's a overly idealistic thing to think that your allies and whatever your pursuit is are going to be like your twin. The reality is like, I think if I look at a person and I go, cool, we're together on 70 to 80% of stuff, then I think you're my ally.
Well, and you know, like if you go through like history, I just finished Right Thing Right Now. I always say that wrong, by Ryan Holiday. Mm-hmm. It's all these stories of people, you know, working towards justice. And there are these voices in there that were like people in positions of power who were just fucking relentless. They weren't like, hey, I'm here if you need me. I mean, they were like
swinging away.
Yeah, I mean, they were like relentless. They weren't going into rooms being like, hey, I'm gonna make sure to like not step on any toes. They were going to rooms and be like, I'm here to fucking wreak havoc.
Yeah.
So whether like I can't remember the name, but one of the stories is about who was the like original abolitionist and
John Brown
in England. In England.
Oh, Thomas Paine.
No, before that even.
Okay.
I mean, his story's crazy and fascinating. I've never even heard of him before, but he was going to one of those two big old English schools. I can't remember which one. And he had to write his dissertation. He chose, like, basically made an argument for anti-slavery. Didn't feel that way when he wrote it, but he wanted to choose something that was hard. And then he did it, and he was like, "Oh shit."
I think I might believe this.
Yeah, yeah. And then he is
That's awesome.
He is the person most credited with outlawing slavery in England, which kind of led to this basically everything eventually
domino effect.
Yeah, so like he was one of the first people to use capitalism against itself. So he got, you know, English people to boycott tea because tea was being harvested by slave labor, and so they had campaigns or like there's blood in your tea, and so they got, you know, they went after business people's pocketbooks, and he came from wealth and influence, and he spent his entire life like relentlessly pursuing abolishing slavery and was like one of the first big dominoes. Or there was a senator who the word genocide wasn't even in the dictionary until like the last like 60,
I can see why it wouldn't be. Yeah,
70 years or so. And there was a senator who spent his entire life, he first got the U.S. Senate to recognize it as an actual term, and then spent like, that was his thing as a U.S. senator to get. And so he spoke on genocide over 3,000 times in the Senate until he retired. Just this dude who just was like, no, it's bad to kill whole swaths of people. And we're going to, it's so bad that we should have a name for it so that we know what to call it when we see it. And then we're going, I'll spend my entire life as a senator dedicated towards making sure that this is something that we recognize globally as unacceptable.
Sure.
So there are these like stories of like, oh no, like it is okay in these great injustices. In fact, it's necessary in these great injustices to like not kind of go after it. You have to be relentless. And so I think in the same way, like,
and to realize that probably that's because the entire apparatus and mechanism is designed to preserve it.
100%,
So you don't swing away. You're against a fleet of people who are benefiting from that status quo. So until someone's bold enough to be like, oh, I'm just selling out on this idea, it's really hard to garner enough energy and attention to getting people to actually wake up to whatever you're trying to do.
The powers that be will do whatever whatever it takes to not be the powers that were, right? You know, I mean, they're
it's a good way to put it.
They will do whatever it takes. And so, yes, there is a level of relentless, but like back to your original question, I felt embarrassed a little bit because it is embarrassing to cry that much in front of a lot of people. And then it's also embarrassing to cry in front of a bunch of people who've had like really hard lives.
Sure.
Right. And so,
those white tears.
Yeah, exactly. So I felt like I felt the type of way because I had been really intentional for 6 months to like be really respectful and honoring, and then I got up there just like whimpering and but ultimately what it came out is like I did discover my like fundamental why is I come from a family of deep feeling people, and it sometimes in my like family tree controls and dictates the way they live their lives, and I think it kind of does me too. It's just I've been able to, by luck, having a good partner and wife that helps me in many ways, in so many ways, I've kind of just directed it really in a really focused way that I still really feel deeply. It's just my deep feelings are really focused towards, okay, if I am going to feel deeply, then I ought to direct that towards helping people in whatever capacity I can.
Right. It transitions from that deep feeling into an action.
Yes.
And then it becomes really the evidence that the feeling is very real because, you know, you can prove it. And we've talked about that ad nauseum in our past, but I think that is always the hurdle. And that's also one of the beautiful things about Spire is that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that was also the intention there to go like, I actually think most people could resonate with my feelings.
Yes.
The tricky part is, can we get people to also share in the action and wanting to give people an easy way to start working out that muscle, as you put it, of turning those feelings of care, concern, generosity, injustice, or wanting to create or improve justice and, you know, whatever it is, for people into something that, you know, you can really see and measure. And so now the young men that you partner with, they run alongside you this candle company that makes these candles, donates hours of labor, and creates this incredible space for them to continue to grow, reassimilate, form partnerships, and just also be a part of a community where that level of concern is really there. That level of love and desire for their flourishing is central. Which is probably the first time I would argue even like I didn't grow up with anything like that. You know what I mean? That would have been a cool space to have. But I think I've watched you do it now for so long. And I always think that's the part I recognize with them is when I first met them to when I see them down the road, it's not like you said, it's not like we need to transform them. It's about simply just creating that space where all of a sudden I can see that I'm like, oh, you know, you're valuable. Like, we knew that, but you know it. Yeah. And that's what's so sick. It doesn't come from us. It's not a thing that's flowing from me. Like, you weren't valuable till I said it or till I blah, blah. You just always were. And that is really cool to watch show up in these dudes. And it's an awesome thing to create. I mean, I obviously have no clue what they will become, but they will always be something more significant simply by the mere fact that they know they're significant. It's like they were always doing things that mattered, you know, but it's different when you really believe what you do matters and that you matter. And like, it's just and like the candles are great. They're fucking awesome. They smell great. They look gorgeous. They're dope for sure.
Yeah.
But it is that part of it that I'm always really in awe of. And it's super cool that you do.
Yeah. Thank you. And it is so interesting because I know I already said it. I just really, really deeply believe in people. And it doesn't mean that I don't get frustrated with people. I do. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a pretty impatient person, honestly. And you can relate to this too.
I'm the same.
I think we're pretty we're pretty impatient. And so I'm not like, it's not like, I'm not the like when you show up at a typical day here, it's not like flowers and sunshine. Like I'm like, guys, so good to see ya. Like if guys fuck up, I'll let them know, like we hold people accountable. In fact, I would argue that the best way to show someone you don't care is to not hold them accountable in some capacity. The part of parenting is holding your kids accountable because you love them so that people who don't do. Right. So, but I think that people are good, man. I think that people are good. And I think that it's really hard to be good in a wealthy capitalistic society because it's so easy to either not do something or distract yourself with other things so you aren't aware of it. In particular, people with wealth and affluence. And so Gandhi said the hardest thing about learning and justice was to not become bitter. And so that's something that I frankly have to fight against too, because I don't want to come across as self-righteous or noble, and I don't even feel that way about myself. I don't feel more noble. I just feel like sometimes people are walking around with their eyes closed, and I'm just trying to get them to like open up their eyes, and once they see, then they can't help but become activated, so to speak, And so I kind of want to, like, a lot of our business model is tricking people into opening their eyes, right? So I'm like, hey, here's a candle. And then once you get the candle, we say more than a candle as our tagline. We exclusively employ young men who are justice impacted or have periods of incarceration, providing mentorship in a safe space to breathe. I think we say jobs, mentorship, and a safe space to breathe are like initial like kind of hooks. And then we even say, like, some of our other messaging is like, we believe that people want to do something but don't know where to start. And so we wanted to make it easy. By purchasing your candle, you provide employment to young men with challenging pathways. So we try to use this language that's like, hey, this is easy. This is an easy win for you. And then once we get them in there, then we can start talking about other things. Then we can be like, cool, well, now you got a candle. Like, what else do you want to do? And then they're like, hey, maybe I'll book a candle class, or maybe when our company has a party, we'll have a party there. And I think the default for people is to act. It just is really overwhelming to figure out how to do so. People are busy, and in a country like America, there's no such thing as enough. And so you get on this treadmill of like, there's no arrival point in capitalism. So you'll never feel like you have enough, even if you have enough.
Oh, I mean, I think even if you were to look at the behavior of the most wealthy, it does not look like I was listening to this one. He's a Dutch historian. I cannot remember his name. He's brilliant, but he wrote this book called like the Moral, is it called Moral Dilemma? Anyways, but it's a book basically about him trying to pitch to younger generations that like, don't take a bullshit job in finance, private equity, and like whatever. Go solve the problems of the world. Like, we forget that was a thing we used to pitch young people, which was like, don't stack your chips. Go find a way to fix a major problem and like make this place better for you and everyone. And that felt like at some point in history was very central to the way people picked jobs, and that's kind of dying. But one of the things he was saying, just to that last point, he's sat in rooms, he's been at all these huge wealth conferences where they, 1,500 private jets arrive to talk about the problems of the world, you know what I mean? And so it's just like this really crazy dichotomy. And he always says, he's like, the most fascinating thing is that I could look at a certain population in the United States and go, I could take half of your wealth right now and I could distribute it amongst other people. Not 1% of your life would change. Not its quality, not your not your options, not like nothing about your life. Where for so many people, if I took half of their net worth, they would end up in abject poverty.
Yeah, two in five people in America couldn't afford a $400 expense.
Yeah, 66% of all bankruptcies in America are medical debt related, which is crazy. To know one little problem, broken ankle, dislocated shoulder, a bad illness, whatever, that's it. That's a wrap. And that awareness, I think, of like how much there really is in the pie that like you said, but that it's still never enough. No matter how much of the bigger the slice of that pie you have, you're like, I could always get a little more. It would be good. And I don't know how you fix that.
I mean, you don't. Because, I mean, there's a reason that, Jesus talks about greed more than anything else. That was thousands of years ago, and, these guys can't even read. So they're all walking around illiterate in sandals, and he's like, hey, I think money's a problem. He talks about more than anything else. His famous parable about, telling it's easier for a camel to remove through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to inherit the kingdom of heaven Jesus said it.
One of the most controversial statements.
And like, nope.
We're not saying that. Yeah, we're not saying that. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's also kind of funny too, because like money's like a made up thing, really. Like it's a made up thing, but for thousands of years, what you're really boiling down to is, do people feel safe with what they have? And if they don't, then they'll want to continue to accumulate more, because more makes them feel safer, makes them feel more protected from things that they can't protect themselves from, like disease and cancer and addiction and unhealthy relationships and misfortune.
Fucking Murphy's Law, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the real crux of the wealth thing is like what's the psychology of wealth that makes you feel like you need more, or like for our extremely wealthy, if you have $100 million in the bank and you put it in a low yield 5% interest bank account, I think you make like $600 an hour, 24 hours a day. So like once you get to that 100 million mark, which we have a lot of people in this country that are worth $100 million. I mean, there's just fake money at this point. It's so anyway. So I think it's impossible to get people to fix that problem. And so the question isn't really how do we fix that problem, it's that how many people can we help see differently. So like, I mean, I'm not going to fix, like, if I dedicated my life to trying to fix that problem of greed, then it'd be really discouraging. But if I'm like, how can I just like help people see how they can help more? Then
perhaps
we like get something done.
No, I like it. I like the idea, because I think also too, it doesn't naturally trigger that defensiveness around the criticism, because even if someone's being greedy, no one likes to be called it.
No.
So the thing is, like, even if it's true,
I mean, it is the sin of America is greed.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of sins we're happy to point at, but greed is so integral to the American psyche, that they're like, we just don't talk. It's like the thing we just don't talk about. We'll talk about all other things. But if it comes to greed, we won't talk about it because it's so integral to a capitalist society. And then, it also gives people their self-worth, because it says that if you can get it, you deserve it. And so people who have a lot are like, I worked for this, I deserve it. And then it's a part of their identity. Like I achieved this based on my intelligence. But I read this week that if you have one brother who's rich and he has a brother, that brother is more likely to be rich than he is to be the same approximate height. So like wealth is more you're more centralized than our genetics.
Yeah.
Right? You're more likely.
That's crazy.
Like if you have a tall brother who's rich, you're more likely to also be rich than you are to be tall.
Crazy.
And I was like, statistically.
And
I was like, that's insane.
But I mean, that is where, like, you even read Chomsky, and he was always talking about one of the hardest things that still exists in America, regardless of whether you're an immigrant or born here, is leaving the economic class that you arrive in. That he's like, that's one of the most challenging things a person can do, is rise from whatever economic position they were born in the United States.
Yes.
In the world, it's probably even more challenging potentially, but it's still reality that, like, that is still, as to that centralization point, that like, you coming in and having no slice of the pie to having a slice is a fucking bear.
Yes. And you're right, it's probably more possible in America than it is in the majority of countries.
Oh, but it's still problematic. I wasn't saying that. I was just saying like that it is a fascinating thing to think of the money being so centralized, that one of the great heroic feats. And when we see it, often it is like kind of remarkable, but usually it like comes through athletics, novel talent, rarefied ability that all of a sudden pulls someone from, and I'm talking the full run from bottom, tippy tip top. Yeah. That's usually like such a lotto ticket.
Or like people underestimate, maybe not underestimate, but they don't see intelligence as winning the lottery.
Sure.
Right? So I got a conversation with a guy the other day. Really good dude. But we differ a lot on politics. He's a Hispanic dude, first generation. His parents moved up here, grew up really poor, sharing a 1-bedroom house with multiple siblings. He's a little bit younger than us, and he's really, really successful. He's also really, really conservative. And so we had lots of dialogue. But I think he's obviously very sharp. And so he might not have won the financial lottery, but he was born with a baseline level of cognitive intellect that has allowed him to move out of that class system into another. And the goal isn't to be like, okay, how do we help our brightest, smartest ever achieve? That's never been like an ethos of almost any functional society. It's been like, well, how do we protect our most vulnerable? It's not like, okay, guys, how do we protect our strongest, smartest?
How do we make sure a guy like LeBron James is going to make it in basketball?
Yes.
How do we make sure an Albert Einstein is going to get through this science program?
Yes. Now, obviously, we're trying to create the goal in a society would be to create places where those people are found and seen and elevated.
Because at times they are deeply beneficial.
100%.
Those novel talents are very beneficial
100%.
to the collective.
100%. But it isn't like, that's not like heroic. That's just like, hey, we need to make sure that we don't let people fall through the cracks when they can bring a lot to the table. But also a heroic society would be like, well, how do we help everyone not fall through the cracks?
100%.
I mean, I think everyone, you talk to people who are like, they were like, when I'm done with what I'm doing now, eventually I want to do something that helps. So like, I think it's in everyone. They just don't feel like they have the option. So there is an element too where I feel grateful that at least for this season, I've been able to spend my time and energy doing this, because there's many people that would love to spend their time doing the work that I get to do that can't afford to do it. So, or like my wife who like has to like work in the tech industry, even though she doesn't enjoy it, because we can't afford to raise 3 kids in the city if both of us do something like this. Like in a perfect world, she would love to do this work with me. She would love to work alongside together.
That would be cool.
And we would be able to grow faster and healthier. And her brain works very different than mine. Her brain in many ways probably would lend better towards growing our business than mine. And so I don't think that there's like some people who just don't care. And I also don't think there are some people that aren't feelers. I think everyone is a feeler. It's just like we just do different things with our feelings, or we like pretend that they don't exist, and then we medicate, or we get so busy that we don't even have to acknowledge them. And so I don't think there's this like person walking around that doesn't give a shit. I just think that they have found a way to quiet that voice. And one of my goals is how do I like tweak the compassion volume for people and turn it up? Because then once you hear, to make it kind of cliche, once you hear that song, like it's so lovely that you're going to always want to listen to it, right? You're going to always want to like turn that volume up a little bit, because it's really hard to replicate the feeling of creating meaning for people.
Right.
So, you can send some spreadsheets and get some wins and like execute a good meeting at Amazon, but you're never going to get the same feeling that you get than if you do something selflessly, or as much as you can selflessly. There is no such thing as selflessly, I don't think.
Yep.
Because you get a reward from it. So you do something that helps someone else flourish in a real way. You can't replicate that. And so it's addicting in its own way. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't. Like, I see. And you want to do it more. And so I don't know, man. I'm just passionate about helping people become who they already are. And once they do that, then you don't have to. It's why like it's never about candles or events for us or anything else. It was always just about how do we get people to see who they are and then relinquish control. Like in my big vision too, like we work with the guys we work with, but in my big vision, this thing that we build is also for the flourishing of other people too, right? So not just the people that buy the candles, like we're helping the people that buy the candles and work with us feel that they're contributing towards the flourishing of others, and then work with these guys who are beginning to flourish. And then like, who's to say, why couldn't we do all these other things too? Like we just did, we worked on this together. We felt, both of us, this impulse to do something about the genocide in Gaza, and felt really like unable to do anything. And so we did something simple, and we made a candle, and we donated 100% of the sales of that candle to a couple nonprofits that ended up opening a couple doors, that I've had other conversations with other nonprofits that work with Palestinians specifically. And we've donated, something like $5,000, which again isn't like a game changer, but it's $5,000 more than we would have donated if we didn't have this candle company and this organization. And so I like the idea of eventually growing to a spot where we help our guys move from getting on their own 2 feet and stabilizing themselves to looking around and seeing how they can pay that forward. That's like the long-term vision is how you just create this giant ripple where we just, for as long as we can, we just help as many people as we can in whatever way we can.
In light of all the stuff you're doing, one of my experience of just like having been your friend this whole time is that unto me in my life, the things I've cared about, whether it's this or the manual or anything I've done, you've always been such a huge supporter of that and generous with me in all kinds of ways, whether it's using the space or whatever, or reposting stuff or yada, yada, or just even being someone that I can talk to about it or created a space for me to even begin to launch and process those ideas. But I just do see that level of care and concern in my own life. But then, when I look at, your wife, when I look at your kids, you guys are also very much a family that is so incredibly warm and caring to people outside their own immediate circle. And I think sometimes we forget that like all of behavior is modeling all the time for everyone. And we often think like, well, it's our kids, but you forget that like how you live at all impacts other people, period. Like, and stop. But even my family, and they bump into you, they bump into your family, they bump into your kids, and they're just like, man, they're fucking great. They're so thoughtful, they're so incredibly kind, they're so warm. And I see that as one of like the little hidden fruits that like of doing it, is people think like, oh, it matters what you tell your kid. It matters what you tell them, like what they can hold and hear. And I think sometimes it's underappreciated how the things you guys do, the way you live, how much the young men that are part of this are like also a part of your life and like really included, really at the table, and how that impacts them, and going like, oh, that's what you do then with that kind of love and concern. They see it more than you just go care about people and do good things. It's it's so much more sophisticated, and therefore I think it's been internalized by them. When you do any of this stuff, when you set out to take on kind of some of these larger challenges that you have, is there a thought at all about how that's going to impact your wife and kids, their future, the world they'll grow up in and live through? Is there any of that thought, or is it just kind of like, really, for me at this juncture, it's still very much about the world that I want to live in?
Oh no, it's. I mean, you already probably know the answer. You're like teeing it up for me. I'm
curious to hear your thought.
Yeah, I mean, it is, because it's also like a tug of war, because we get this beautiful thing that we're creating that our kids get to be a part of, that I think is just really lovely. Like even like tonight, one of our guys, he's still in high school, and so one of our guys is we work with, you already know this, but for you listeners, viewers, when guys start working with us, they're still in the justice system. They're juveniles, still in the justice system. They're in a transitional home, but they can start working towards reentry, which includes employment and sometimes other things. So one of our guys who is still in the system, he loves basketball, and he was allowed to try out for the local basketball team. And so he's playing on the basketball team.
Oh, sick.
And we've been trying to make it to one of his games, but it's been really hectic and busy. And we have Cleveland is now our oldest, now plays basketball and select soccer. And so we have something every day, sports, between our 3 kids. Anyway, it's madness. But she is getting buckets, bro. She had her second game, and she again had over half the points of both teams combined. Just putting in work.
Crazy.
Just putting in work. She had a good coach.
Yeah.
Jay taught her to shoot. She's not shy about taking shots though.
Yeah. It's all good.
But anyway, we're going to his basketball game.
Cool.
The kids are like excited. They know him. They've met him. They'll make a sign. Like it is like a part of like who they are. And like two of our guys came to one of our kids' soccer games a couple weeks ago, and Maverick dapped him up, and he was like, oh, well, I didn't know, well, dap me up. So they get this like beautiful thing. And sometimes I make jokes like, our kids better be getting some out of it because they're gonna have to apply for scholarships for college and stuff. So there's a piece of it that like for their overall holistic well-being, it feels like this is the best thing I could do. And then sometimes that fear piece creeps in, and I worry that the financial sacrifices that we've made over the last decade will affect them negatively. And that voice is usually quieter, but it does creep up almost daily where I'm like, oh, I make, less money than I did when I was 21. Like I don't make very much money doing this. I don't need to make a lot of money. That's not really, we're an hour in. Like, I think that's probably pretty clear, but things do cost money and you're trying to set your kids up for success. And so there's a piece of that, but mostly it's like, I see them flourishing and they already seem wiser in many ways than I am. Oh, yeah. And they're doing the same thing we're all doing, which is they're looking for language to help them understand love. Even Maverick, the other day he goes, Daddy, I love you till the last number.
That's a good one, dude. That almost got me. That's a good one, dude. That's a really good one.
He goes, Daddy. And he just looked at me and goes, I love you to the last number.
I love it.
And
that's great.
And it's because we say like, I love you, infinity. We play that game. Yep. Like you play with all the, I think that's a really common game. I love you, infinity, blah, blah. Yep. And I was like, oh, it just was, I had never heard it said that way. Yep. And I was like, oh, he just found a new way to help articulate the thing that is so hard to articulate, which is this desire to like love and be loved. And so my kids teach me all the time, and I think that really teaching them, we have a rule in our house that that when you think something kind, you have to say it out loud. So we are like really intentional as parents, and we see people, or we see our kids walk up to people and encourage them and build them up, and you get to see how people's entire body language shifts when they're encouraged and built up, and we're just really intentional with our kids. Cleveland had our oldest had her like passion project at school, and she did a presentation on Spire Candle Co. And
oh, cool.
They give one of Kennedy's teacher's birthday was the other day, and so she brought her a candle and a note. They are really, really intentional, thoughtful kids. And I know, I'm sure every parent feels this way, but like Amy and I went on a trip the other day, and we're like, God, our kids are awesome.
They're great.
They're really good kids, even and they just like practicing things we're doing right now. We're reviewing it this weekend, but all the kids, Maverick can't do this because he can't write, but we're doing a more of less of list for 2026.
I like this. Okay.
So Cleveland wrote her list with things that she wants to do more of and things that she wants to do less of. Kennedy's finishing her list. These are the things I want to do more of. These are the things I want to do less of. Amy and I are writing our list, and then we're going to discuss them. And then as a family, we're going to come up with a plan. Like, okay, cool. Here's what we collectively agreed we want to do more of. And
I'm biting that 100. That's brilliant.
And it's really, I looked at Cleveland already. She was on top of it. She brought her list. And what's really cool about Cleveland's list to me is it reflects what she wants to do more of, but needs help doing it, just like we all do. It's like she has her less of it is like watching TV, cleaning up toys because she has too many. Like things that we already want, right? And things that I think adults are like, oh, I wish I should watch less TV and work out more. Like all these things we know are healthy.
Sure.
But you can't hit goals that don't exist. And so, I'm not like a big, like, let's set goals guy, but I do think it's really hard to hit a target that doesn't exist, right? And so we'll sit down as a family this week, and their kids are young. They're 10, 8, and 5. But even at those ages, they understand what brings them joy and fills them up, and the things that bring them joy and fill them up are not more things, more stuff, more content, more shows. It is more games as a family, more adventures as a family, things like that. And so I think that what we do helps them understand contextually what matters or what ought to matter and what they ought to strive for. Mm-hmm. And those things are, relationships, love, compassion, helping others. And like you said, I think they see that enough that we don't have to talk about it. And then I think the other nuance to this too is they see that it does come at a cost. They understand that what we do as a family with all this, Cathedral and Spire Foundation, Spire that the time and energy we put into the community that we work with and trying to help people in meaningful ways, they understand that comes at a cost to me and my time. Like when I'm gone or working long hours, they understand why. And when we are like, hey, we're not, instead of taking a big trip this year, we're taking a road trip to Oregon. Like we're not shy about it. We'll be like, yeah, we don't, like, they know dad doesn't make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, dad's job does not like make a lot of money, and mom has to work this job that she doesn't love and enjoy, because in order to do the things we do, we have to have some stability as a family. So like we're also really, we trust our kids to be able to handle a certain level of intellectual conversations. Mm-hmm. And they can. Kids are, I think, a lot more capable than we give them credit for. For most of human history, kids had to be participants. And I think in America specifically, we've relegated our kids to like passengers instead of participants. And they're part of our family. So that means you do the dishes after dinner. That means that you take out the trash. That means that you also are part of what is hard about what we do, and you're a part of what's great about what we do, and also you're a part of what kind of family we're creating together. You get to participate in that. So you get to we sit at a table together and talk about more of this, less of that, and you get a voice at this table because you're a participant, not a passenger. And so, yeah, man, everything is, what's the Nick Saban quote, which feels like a hard left turn in this conversation, but I think he says the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Mm-hmm. And we are an intentional family. Mm-hmm. We are intentional with the work we do, the time we spend, the money we spend, the people that we, invest in. And then whenever we're not intentional, eventually we're like, oh, we probably should have been more intentional about that. But yeah, man, Maverick, I love you to the last number. I think our kids are a little bit prophetic if we're willing to listen.
Mm-hmm. I think also too, but like you said, like you've helped to engender that environment. I think they came here as good kids, like most kids, most or if not all kids do arrive. But it is the added way that they've been able to verbalize and relate to people that is really powerful, because it's one thing to keep it inside and have this really good heart, but man, it's so on display with them in so many ways. The way they treat me, or the way that, like, I run a door, the big hugs, always so warm, asking questions, curious, quick to celebrate, quick to share their own victories. I love that level of confidence that, like, what I'm going through is also relevant. It's important. And I think that's so valuable. It's like, yep, there's a difference between a person who can only talk about themselves and a person who forgets themselves. And neither of those are really what you would hope to teach. You would want a kid to be like, no, dude, what you were going through and what you're undergoing is cool and interesting. Yeah. And the people who love you want to hear. And you share that stuff. And also ask them questions. Like, ask how they're doing and what life's like for them. And
yeah,
it's just these little ways that I feel like in so many ways the big values that I've given Huck, the two big rules, of the 5 we really talk about at this age are just like, love yourself, but not so much that you are, unloving to others, and love others, but not so much that you're unloving to yourself.
Both great.
And like that idea of watching how that fleshes out with your kids is so clearly obvious. It's a really cool thing to see them so confident in themselves, so in their own shoes, and also so capable of recognizing other people and handing down. I mean, it's really hard to give what you don't have, a good portion of the time. And so, like, I know that so much of that affection and support and encouragement and celebration comes because it's already in them. And so it's so easy to do it. It's not a toy soldier thing. They're not trying to win brownie points. It's not a contest. They just are. And also very uniquely individuals themselves, different from one another.
Yeah,
in so many ways.
Different.
And that's also another good sign that it's not a little row of mercenaries who just are all trying to do the same exact thing. It's like they're very, very different human beings that have a shared understanding in certain areas and still have their individuality, man. It's really cool. But yeah, starting this whole thing, I think it's been really impressive to watch. And, we will always have a million things to talk about, but I always think it's it's always like one of those things, like, I do my job. I think it helps. I kind of I think we're the same in this. Like, we wage the battles that never end, and we've chosen to do that with our life.
Well, and everyone does.
No, for sure.
It's just, but like ours are like a little bit like some people are like, I'm going to wage the battle of wealth accumulation.
Yes.
It also never ends.
Yes.
Or wage the battle of,
that's a good point.
Of trying to find things that bring me happiness. And so they, you know, it's why there are people our age that still go out Fridays and Saturday nights and get hammered.
Yeah.
Or they go to a party and can't help but like do a line of Coke. I mean, and those aren't these aren't judgment statements. These are just
it's a great time.
These are observations of we're all chasing something.
Yep.
It's just, what are you willing to chase for forever?
Yeah.
I'm willing to chase what I'm doing for forever because it brings me fulfillment.
Yeah.
In a way that I think is the healthiest version of that. I don't know if that makes sense, but like we're all chasing. Yeah. Everyone's chasing, and you're going to chase until you die.
Right.
In some capacity.
Yeah.
It's just, what is the feeling you're chasing? And so is the thing you're chasing, the only difference between like a Trump and a Gandhi is the direction that they chose and the thing that he chose to chase. Yep. One chased never-ending influence, power, and wealth and control, and one went the opposite direction. It was like, all right, well, I'm going to, because Gandhi, like, I think if I remember right, when Gandhi's dying, there's like he had only solved like a portion of the things he wanted to solve, right?
Oh, sure.
So, you know, it's that old quote, do not be afraid of work that has no end. Right? Yeah. So, you know, anyway, I think some people don't realize
that's a great point. That's
a
great point. Yes. To touch on it, that's probably what it is, which is we've chosen paths that are not the most lucrative.
That is true.
Yeah. They're not the most lucrative, but I
true.
think they are more in some ways than other paths. They are more comprehensively beneficial, not only to us as people, but to the people that we serve, to the people that are around us. And there's something to that even for me is sometimes a really great joy. Sometimes I leave my work and I'm like, I'm really glad what I'm a part of, and I love that it doesn't just benefit me. I like knowing that it stretches a little bit beyond my own life, and that welfare is extended to other people who I don't know, who are nothing like me.
And you might never see again.
I might never see them again. And there's a part of that I always like, that like, man, it's kind of like walking around and just leaving like a small dose of good. Or at least that's the hope.
Yeah.
Is that it's leaving a small dose of good somewhere.
Yeah. And then some days you don't feel that way.
Oh, yeah. No, sometimes
and that helps you get. I'm going to walk out and we can wrap up here, but I'll walk an idea that I kind of like fleshed out with Amy the other day, and she did not think it was very interesting, but I think it's really interesting. I just have this concept of, so I still believe in an afterlife. I believe there is a heaven. It helps me like function, I think, better in general. But I have this kind of vision of heaven where like you get to anyone you've ever interacted with, more than 30 seconds, you get to see again, both good and bad.
Sure.
And I think that would be really lovely. Even like on this last trip, there's this little tiny Indian baby who like, I love babies. You love babies. Babies love me. I think babies love you, but probably because we love them, right? Which is kind of how things work. Amy used to joke that like I'd like meet someone for the first time and be like, I really like them, and she's like, they laughed at all your jokes. And I'd be like, well, but they thought you were really funny. They laughed at everything you said. Anyway, but there's this little baby, and I just was like tickling her, and she was laughing and giggling, and I'm like, what if I die and eventually I get to see this little Indian baby that I spent like 5 minutes chatting with, and I get to ask her like, how'd it go, man?
How was your run?
How was your run? Like, was it good? And then also you have these interactions that you're not proud of or you didn't handle the best, and then you get these chances to like awkwardly redeem yourself a little bit, like, hey, my bad. Anyway, I just have this idea if there is an eternity, it is this like season where we just get to like see all the people that we ever interacted with and see how our interaction affected them for better or worse. And the goal is that if that is what heaven looks like, that teeter-totter of people that benefited from interacting with me far outweighs the teeter-totter of people that didn't. Because I know that I have no illusions that every interaction I have with people is good, and that I handle every situation perfectly or well or even average. But what if we get to this thing called heaven and we get to just spend a lot of time with people that are like, hey, I want you to know now that we're dead and stuff, that I really enjoyed this interaction, from the like little baby that I got to tickle and see laugh to the people that I spend hours and days and years alongside. And I think a lot of it is just really simple. It's like, dude, how do I make sure that teeter-totter is up here and the scale is here? Yeah. And then when I eventually have to confront these, in fact, sometimes I want to, like, I don't know if you ever feel this, but people that you probably don't have this as much. There's people that I've like not treated well, you know, almost in like a past life that, you know, when I was young. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I almost hope to run into them so that I could.
Oh, I always do.
So I could like apologize or acknowledge, even if it's not on their radar.
Yep.
I want the opportunity to say I'm sorry and be like, hey, dude, that wasn't about you. Yeah. That was about me.
As long as it would be a benefit for them.
Correct.
Like I always want to be.
If it just assuaged my guilt,
it's just like, I feel so much better. And they're like, oh, fuck you. Like, then I don't want to. But if someone's ever had pain long term and carry something from your past with you into your future and in your present, and if you could absolve someone of that load and burden, you can think about your own life. Whoa, it would be nice. It would be nice to not have to hold it. And so I think I would look forward to it in that sense of like, if someone really would benefit from that, I would be happy to.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean, I don't know. I think heaven's going to look like a lot of things, but I hope that would be one of them.
That'd be cool.
We just get can you just imagine, guys, I think we vastly underestimate, in some ways overestimate, but in most ways, I think we vastly underestimate our ability to affect other people's well-being.
Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, I want you to know, as always, it's always so fascinating to talk to you, and I always appreciate just like the level of vulnerability you have, both about the projects you do, your family, the things you care about, what you're working toward. You do such a great job of just like being humble, but also very clear about what you want to be, what you hope other people can connect with, and what you would like them to be. I kind of like it. I like that you just always have this idea of like, this is how it ought to go. And that is so valuable to me. I really am so used to triangulating my own views off of a really clear position. And so it's really nice to just have you come on and talk about all these amazing things. We'll be sure to link and feature everything you're up to and hopefully connect more people to it. But we'll have you come on and talk about marriage and parenting and all kinds of stuff, because these are also incredible strengths of yours in areas where you have lots of great wisdom to pass on and insights. But even today, just in a random one-off last minute, I really, really appreciate it, dude.
Thanks for having me.
And also, I got to say before we go, we if you followed me for any amount of time, or you followed Nathan, you know that we tried to launch a podcast so long ago. And
miss you.
And then I went through, and then we went through this thing where I was just struggling with personal stuff in my own life, and then it was like really hard to like get things back together. We live very far apart from each other, not really in distance, but in time of travel. Yes. We live far, and
even like this was like I've been really busy now this couple weeks, and I was like, I got 2 hours on Wednesday.
Yes.
I mean, so I could be a hard guy to track down.
But the point is, and then I called you and I just was like, hey man, like I really want to do something. I didn't do anything all last year, and it really frustrated me. I was like, I want to do something this year, and the only way I can do it is if I'm able to do it from my home and in my own space. And that means that your ability to be a part of it would be hamstrung by how much you're doing and whatever. And I felt like sad about it. I felt like it's because I would always want to do something with you. I still do. I still would love to just do something with you. But I felt sad, like in some way I was not kicking you out, but almost like, hey man, we talked about this. And anyways, I'm just going to do it myself and see you later. And I did. I felt like bummed about it because I'm like, it had nothing to do with not wanting you to be a part of it at all. And so I just always, and you were really gracious and just like, hey man, it's all good. Like whatever works for you, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way at all.
But either way, I just still want you to know, like it's something I won't forget. And it sounds maybe small to you, but big to me. And it just felt like such a loving thing to be like, hey man, if that's what you would love to do, I would love to support you doing that. Even if that means that my role in it is different than what it is, or this idea that we had, we're no longer going to move forward on. And so I just wanted to make sure there's a record of that, of my gratitude, and that I'm aware of how generous that was, just not only in terms of whatever, but just in energy of like, hey man, I love you. Like go rip it. And I'm excited for you. Yeah,
for sure. And that was like, I didn't have to, I mean, that was just,
that's
just the truth,
right?
Great. I mean, that's just where.
No, that's really lovely, but I think that is not everybody, and I think that other people would be like, "Oh, whatever," and get butthurt about it. Or it could create distance. And I love you so much, but I also just that felt like such a brotherly, supportive, loving thing. It meant a lot to me, and so I still hope and will always continue to search for a way where we get to a place where we're able to collaborate much more frequently. And I hope to have you on numerous times. But I just wanted you to hear me say before we end this episode, like, thanks for that. It has been, honestly, and it's why I wanted you to be the second person on, because the two biggest voices of encouragement were my sister and you of doing that. And I felt like my sister was one who's like, go make your thing. And you were the person that was the same way right there. But it's just an interesting dynamic. And so it just, it meant a lot, dude. I really appreciate it.
Cool.
I
love it too, man. I mean, you already know, but I just want you to win.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to me how you win.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. If you're like, hey, I decided I'm going to become an assassin. I'd be like, well, I'd have some questions.
Yeah, for sure.
It depends on who we going for.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man, again. I love you a ton. And
love you too. Happy late birthday. Jay's 40th.
That's right. 40 now. Yeah. But I did it here. It was great.
Yeah.
And thanks again. That was also a surprise, and I appreciated it, dude. Even though I was in the worst fucking mood. Yeah, God damn it, dude. God damn it.
We don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, anyways. But thanks so much, man.
You bet, man. This is fun.
Awesome.
Excited to hear more.
Sweet, dude. I love you, bro.